just keep an eye on the window for me.
Looks like it should be on YouTube.
I should start up another chat window.
YouTube. Excuse me. YouTube seems like it's taking its time to play. There we go. We are live and on the air on YouTube and Twitch. So welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a lovely Tuesday morning here, and we're here mainly to provide you with support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those, feel free to jump over to foolishtechshow.com. We have a IRC chat that you can join from there and talk directly to us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions about our products and services and interrupt whatever we may be talking about at the time, because otherwise we'll spend the time fill in the dead air with random shop talk. And just keep in mind that any opinions expressed here are of the individual that expressed them and not of the entire company. So with that out of the way, how's everybody doing this morning? That good, huh?
Yeah, no, doing just fine, thanks.
Doing well.
Good. Well, I have two things to announce this morning. First one is we just released like minutes ago CryptoPrevent version 8.0.1.14, and there are a lot of fixes in there for white label people. So if you have white label and want to check those out, feel free to start them up and play around. Some of the fixes include issue with being able to have emails sent to the to-person. That should be all resolved. The ability to lock down email settings in the white label so that when the client gets it, they can't see the email password. We had a person with an issue there. And then some custom features and tray icon abilities as well. So quite a few things went into that. And yeah, everything's looking good there, and we're looking pretty on track for the bulk side. A lot of these 0.1 or 1 point whatever updates have been kind of fixing and preparing bulk side stuff at the same time, so we are looking good there. And then also on top of that, a site that we mentioned here quite a bit, ghacks.net, did a review on CryptoPrevent version 8. So if you want to check that out there, I've been trying to keep up with the comments since it posted and adding some knowledge in there as well. But otherwise, yeah, everything's looking good there and pretty good review. So thank you, Martin Brinkman, for that. We always enjoy all the little apps and tricks that you find for Windows out there. So awesome to see reviewing our stuff as well. Thank you. And it looks like Phoenix has got quite a few links for us to start off here. And FilthX had some things. Michael, did you read up on those FilthX things?
Yeah. So I don't know where you want to start, but the Yahoo thing I thought was interesting just because we all basically since the very early days of the internet, I mean, Yahoo has pretty much been, a staple, been around.
Oh, no, I meant the FilthX stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read through it a little bit. It looks, I got distracted when I started the show up, but let's see. So he's talking about decloud.
I see what. So he's talking about when he uses the internal FTP viewer for D7.2, he's seeing different last access times, and that is because the server itself is going in UTC, I believe.
Oh, yes,
yes. Nick?
No, but I shot him an email yesterday.
Oh, okay. So Nick told him more about it. But yeah, it's because time zones are imaginary and that stuff doesn't make any sense.
He's using his own server
Uh,
in his own time zone. It's just a code conversion thing that is not a problem in D7X, or shouldn't be.
cool. Cool. So we have some fixes in there for that. I did want to mention the other thing I'd helped him with, because these are awesome features within the custom app section of D7.2. He was having some trouble because he was trying to get a custom app for himself set up for wireless key view, and he was having trouble getting it to download. He could use the download link he had on any web browser and it all worked, but when he tried to download it with D7.2, it would give him it wouldn't find it. And it turns out for Nearsoft stuff, you have to use the what was it exactly called? Let's see. Referring URL when making a download request. So you had to put the page where the download was coming from, and then it would allow to download correctly. So that took care of that. And it's definitely helpful if you have any various downloads that might not download directly. Yeah, and Phoenix mentioned the other one there too, the non-direct URL option. That one did not work for the Nearsoft ones. He did try that one first before asking us, and I actually knew because I'd set up some Nearsoft apps before that you had to use that referring download page redirection style thing, because I'd done some Nearsoft apps previously. So I did have to go back in the custom apps and check and see. So that is also a big reason why we add those default apps, is it's more of a example usage of the various ways you can use D7.2's download custom app system. So you don't have to use all of those programs, but I would highly recommend checking out the various default apps we have, not for the particular programs itself most of the times, but for the various ways and abilities you have in that custom apps section. It gives you a lot of good examples on how to do things and tweak things past what might be immediately clear to you. So otherwise, what Michael was talking about was the Yahoo is going to rename itself, and I'll repost that if anyone missed it here. Phoenix had given us this link that Yahoo is going to rename itself to Altaba. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that name, Altava or something. It doesn't matter. But the point is,
Is
though,
that anyway related to Alta Vista?
it,
And was Yahoo always Yahoo? I thought they were something else previously anyway.
really? I don't know. I kind of remember Yahoo from the beginning, or very
I mean, I
early.
remember Yahoo when its brand really struck, but I had also thought it was something else previously.
It's the thing I got out of this reading that article, or a similar article, I guess, was that the thing is that the deal still isn't absolutely set in stone. In other words, Verizon still is within their power to completely walk away from this. Yahoo understands that their name recognition is bad, and Verizon is using this as a leveraging point to make the deal more favorable to them. And I believe this is somewhat of a concession because the deal on the table is billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars. So it's I don't know the exact value, but you can look it up in that article. But the point is that Yahoo, the CEO of Yahoo left, Marissa, whatever her name is. She's gone along with a whole lot of other members. It's looking pretty bad. So if they're not purchased, it could, yeah, it's the end of Yahoo either way because of the name change. But even if they're not purchased, it may very well mean the end, or at least a reckoning point for that institution. I dare say I call it an institution, but whatever.
At this point, I would say about time.
Yeah, I kind of
I
agree, and
kind of feel like they should wipe their entire user accounts database right off the bat right now.
it really bothers me. So
No
I had,
stress.
I'll relate a story. I had a customer, someone I was, a customer I was dealing with, and they were seemed to be security conscious, but their one point of email, their sole business email address was a Yahoo email address. And I'm not sure I'd even condone a friend working, or having having a Yahoo email address just because of all the hacking problems that they've had. Um, let alone someone in business. And I was remiss. Obviously, I don't like to tell anyone, give them. They're free to. Everyone's free to do what they want, of course, but it's hard when you know better, when you've seen and followed this for as many years as we have. It's hard to believe that users still flock to it in droves. I've still, like I said, I have a friend myself, personal friend, and I can tell him all day and all night about how bad Yahoo is, but he'll still sign in every single day and check his email there.
Hmm.
So I don't know what to say. People, no matter they you can walk up and give them proof,
I
walk up with a
mean, at
dead
the
body
same
and they won't
time, you
believe
do have
something.
to give some concessions that, I mean, it's when you're dealing with security in general, there's not always a 100% option out there. So, I
Well,
mean,
I agree. There's no 100% option. That doesn't mean you shouldn't maybe go with somebody with a better, nobody's looking at the track record. In other words, I don't hear these things about Google or even Microsoft for that matter and even no one. I'm not even sure I heard it to the extent when everyone still had an AOL email address. Um, you know,
yeah,
uh,
it's true. It's comparatively, when in those terms, it does seem a lot worse. But I mean, it also could be various targeting. I mean, if those got targeted and infiltrated, then it's much more possible. I'll admit that Google does seem to have a much more robust security practice and focus. Same thing for Microsoft, and um, AOL even was fairly secure, although I did hear about a lot of hacked AOL accounts.
Well,
It's
there
not.
was, but that's why I brought it up because there were a number of stories relating to that, but not to the level, not to the magnitude, I
Yeah,
guess, of this. But you're right; those services may
and
not have
that
been
just
as
seems,
popular
yeah,
as Yahoo Mail.
yeah, yeah. That's what I was about to say. Is that that's been years ago, so it may be that it could have been millions of accounts, up to a billion. I think was the last count thing.
Billion.
But yeah. So we'll see what happens. Maybe the Verizon deal will be better for them. We'll see. But this one I thought was more interesting. The 27,000 MongoDB databases held for ransom within a week. And from what I understand, a lot of this could have been mitigated from uh,
Yeah, they were
better
just using
web
default
app.
passwords and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and they were totally exposed too, from what I understand. These databases were just exposed to the internet at large.
yeah. So
And
it's a lot of that's because of the weak web security behind it.
Mhm.
And honestly, I can't really say that much bad about it because web applications and web development is horrible. It's hard as mess, and especially having to have done some web dev stuff recently, it's like it's so strange that there's little to no information about how to work with web languages on the web. It almost seems ironic to me that you can't really learn how to make web applications and write the internet on the internet. You have to like resort to books and various things of that nature. Kind of strange, but um, anyway, yeah, that's
No books.
yeah,
No.
paper tree killers. Um, so yeah, I think that one is mainly is make sure you change default passwords on any kind of application you have. Don't leave default passwords there. At the least, make a change there, and then keeping an eye on who has access to what is always a big thing there. Other top news there was Los Angeles College ended up paying ransomware to get their files back over $28,000. looks like, one go. So
Hey, we've talked about this obviously in the past. I mean, this is just basically, the story, the unfortunate side effect of publishing the story. Whoever originally did post that information is that, this is just a big green light basically for additional people,
yeah, this
additional
is only
criminals.
encouraging them.
Yeah, this is basically because of this news story. There's a whole bunch of budding criminals, probably young people just looking to make a quick buck, that's going to go online, download some ransomware toolkit, or some, uh, relatively more easily accessible. It's probably going to be a crappy piece of ransomware too. It's probably not going to be that good, but it's going to be another one that's going to be circulating that users will have to deal with.
And I can assure you, a $28,000 backup system would have been a lot better investment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, after paying that, would they then maybe not have the money to have, to invest in that system then after that? But that
I'm
bothers
just
me.
waiting.
Apparently, this is part of their budgeting now. Apparently, risk analysis people are apparently budgeting
Hey,
in these types of
I'm
things.
just waiting for the day when we see a news story. Um, so and so paid thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and didn't get their files back still.
Yeah, we don't see, nobody ever follows up with this. They just know that somebody signed up for the check, and that's the end of it. You never hear about it again in the news, and that's what's so very damaging about all of this.
Because I mean, there's going to be a ransomware person out there that eventually is like, "Oh, we got $50,000 out of them." No, don't give them their stuff back. Ask for another 50,000.
Yeah, and it's probably, and I'm sure it's already happened, and I believe I've seen documented cases actually of that occurring. It's a little bit more isolated, and of course, the enticement to pay the ransom is that it will actually get your data back. So they do have motivation. The bad players have motivation to actually do what they say they're going to do to continue that line of business. But it really
Wow.
needs to be addressed. I almost think that, like we talked about
I mean, they're
previously, it
not
should be
they're
a
not out
crime to
there
pay
to
these
like
ransoms.
keep their business going. They're out there to make money, and if they make money that way, that's going to be the way that they're
S-
going to go.
What I
So
don't get it is why they would budget for paying cyber ransoms every year, and why not just budget for a good backup system or some other sort of preventative measure or additional security.
the various layers of security that you could invest with $28,000 is unimaginable.
Well, it's not unimaginable, but apparently nobody wants to think about that. They just rather do whatever's quick and easy, and that means doing the same thing they've been doing and just now budget for attacks.
Well,
Which,
my biggest issue with it is that college and university tuitions have been going up and up and up, and book prices have been going up and up and up, and this is where that money's going. Like, it's not going
that's a
back
good
to
point. That's a very
education. It's not helping kids learn more. You're basically paying for them to have a safety net because they don't want to do what they should be doing, which is learning about these things and then teaching others about them and
very
how to
true.
do them correctly. So
Very
it
true.
definitely does set a very bad example, and it makes it even worse that they're hiking up their prices so much even prior to this. So that's kind of what upsets me the
It's
most about
sad.
it.
I didn't consider that, Brantley, but now that you have, I'm even more depressed.
So another thing Phoenix posted, this one, man, WikiLeaks is definitely. I've seen other stories about it where they're just saying this is stretching for WikiLeaks, that they have nothing else to do with their free time. But they're proposing to make a database that tracks verified Twitter users and gets you things like their real name, addresses, and various contacts and emails and all kinds of things with that. And it's just like,
So
why?
they've
Why
become private investigators for people now?
why are you putting your time into that? Is that really something of that nature, big a deal? Like, it just seems like a waste of their time. And I mean, we've seen WikiLeaks kind of just spiraling down into almost being political machines themselves.
Well, it's,
Or
I mean, we don't talk about it because we try to avoid politics on the show, but in the recent intelligence briefings that have been going on regarding that, there's a clear tie and a clear link between the Russian government and WikiLeaks, and yeah, them being a reliable, trustworthy source is something that I would
well,
never
that's what I
say.
mean when I say they're almost becoming a political machine themselves. Not the fact that they are political, but they're being used by other politicians for political purposes. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I think they're
not
outright taking
unlikely.
money from people and then doing their bidding. I mean, I think
Well, I
it's a
don't know
criminal
that part of it,
organization.
but
I think it's
I'm
a
just
criminal
saying
organization.
it's not even unlikely that, hey, this free service is out here trying to do good,
Do you
but then
know that
at
it's
the same
dangerous to
time,
even
people can use it
surf?
to
It's
push
dangerous
it.
to even surf the WikiLeaks site. You're almost as likely to get infected or harmed as you would just randomly typing in random characters into your URL and hitting enter and see where Google takes you. Um,
Yeah, we had mentioned that story before too.
yeah, so I do not. If you wouldn't trust yourself to even go there, why would you trust anything that they're saying? I guess is my point. But
So otherwise, I think we had talked about this one before. Kaspersky's. Oh no, so this is Kaspersky fixed the serious issue with their certificates. So that's good. Hey, the good news.
yeah,
Yay.
that
Um,
took a little bit longer than I expected. I was
we
it a
just
week
talked about it
ago?
less than a week, so it
Oh,
was either Thursday or Friday at the worst that we mentioned it being found. So that's not bad turnaround time.
all right.
He also points out that Windows 10's newest build has a lot of fixes and wait, list of fixes and issues. So I guess that kind of makes it sound like there's both fixes and more issues. Um,
Well, I'll review it. Oh yeah, they do have a relatively long list of known issues. Um, oh, using Control C to copy and command prompt won't work. They couldn't have fixed that. Doesn't seem hard to fix.
it's never been like that. Command prompt, you've always had to right click to copy. Heck, I think you even had to right click mark and then right click and copy.
Hold on a second.
Michael's going to try it right now.
This is true unless you're
Yeah, it
using.
works. It works. You can do Control C. Um, if you highlight something in a command prompt and hit Control C, it currently works. So apparently they
But
just
you had
broke
to
that.
right click to mark it, right?
This is what
No.
you're saying is true unless you're using the newer console behavior.
Oh, the new, yeah.
Windows 10.
Which they did make a lot of improvements on that console. I mean, the biggest thing I love about it is being able to fill up the whole screen. It
Certainly,
make,
visually it looks, yeah, they've been,
just it only took up a third of the screen, I think, at most. It's like, why?
Honestly, I haven't enabled that.
Hmm. That's like my favorite feature about it, but I don't spend that much time in the.
oh, check this, check this, check this. See, this is what bothers me. And I'll just point this item out here of one of the fixes. The Netflix apps may display a black screen rather than the expected video content. Well, that sounds pretty serious because Netflix is pretty popular. As a workaround, you can use Microsoft Edge to watch the video content from Netflix. They're just getting people to stop. Basically, they're gonna break things. We're right at the point where they're gonna be breaking things just so that you will use, let's say, Microsoft assets or some other company's assets and
But
sites and resources.
it is interesting to note that Netflix, because of their extremely crazy DRM protections, you can't watch full digital content and anything except for their app on Windows 8 and 10. But they did allow it to be used in Edge, and Edge apparently has some crazy
They have some
DRM.
DRM improvements, yes,
Yeah,
that make that
so
happen. Yeah.
um, but I do see what you're saying is, and that is a very strong possibility. I mean, we've already talked about them deleting apps that they don't feel are necessary. So,
Okay, and here's another one where again I think they overstepped the bounds. If you upgrade from Windows 8.1 directly to build 15.0.0.2, all your store apps are lost during the upgrade process. So let's say, and I mean this doesn't apply to me, but let's say your life revolved around store apps that you had purchased, and then all of a sudden you get an automatic upgrade, and you no longer have any of those. Now, granted, you can re-download the lost apps from the store, but are they even considering the time that users have to go through to just basically restore their computer to the way it was before they decided to push out these
I mean, they are,
improvements?
because obviously they tested and found that that was an issue, or had it reported. So,
They don't think that that's big enough a problem to hold off the release or to fix it. I mean, I just don't understand why some of these known issues seem huge. I've seen known issues in like video drivers and other things, and they usually seem pretty mild. Usually, this is an operating system. This is the whole foundation of everything I'm doing on the computer. They need to they need to keep that work a little bit harder on that.
so this is kind of an interesting title here. I haven't read the link that Phoenix posted here, but apparently Pirate Bay was offered to help catch criminals, but somehow copyrights got in the way. That's good irony there.
Um,
And while Michael reviews that link, it looks like Firefox 52 has Adobe Primetime CDM removal, which I guess that's good. I don't know what Adobe Primetime is even, so. Whoops, I didn't mean to add that to that, but anyway. Something I'm really excited about is Twin Peaks. The Showtime reboot of it has finally gotten a air date. It's going to start May 21st of this year. The first episode is going to actually be 2 episodes so you'll get 2 hours, and then followed by 16 more hour-long episodes, and it does have David Lynch as the director of it all still, so I think it's going to be awesome. Really excited about that. I really enjoyed that series originally.
Yeah. So it looks like the Pirate Bay was basically helping turn over child porn and other online criminal activity. Um, they were gathering information from the users on the site and tracking them and then turning that information over to police officers. Apparently, when Hollywood got involved in a case with the police to pursue copyright infringement, that's when they parted ways because they didn't want to remove the crappy Stanley Kubrick movie from their site, and that's when they stopped helping police. All right, look, I mean, just because a criminal decided at some point in time to help the police doesn't necessarily mean you need to start, yeah. Oh, Pirate Bay is the best people in the world, they need to, they were the only thing between the criminals and the population. No, I mean, this story seems to be like very positive view towards the Pirate Bay. I'm not suggesting that in any way, shape, or form, but it does appear that there may be some fact to what they're saying. But again, just because a criminal may have done something to assist officers in the past doesn't necessarily or doesn't at all do away with what they're currently doing or anything else.
Your PCMD says that other criminal activity question, isn't that what Pirate Bay is all about? And while there, granted, is a large amount of could be classified as criminal activity there, there are some legitimate uses for it. They're essentially just indexing and providing torrent links. So the criminal activity, I feel, falls more back on the people that actually provided those torrent links, not the people indexing it. So, as apparently what Michael was saying is that they are trying to do the more things that are legitimately criminal acts like child porn and things like that. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, but not because they are forced. In other words, they do what they will, though. I guess was also what I was saying, and the fact that they're currently fancying things that seem to agree with most of us, that
There you
most of
go,
us agree with,
Phoenix. You
doesn't
got
necessarily.
like the 1% of legitimate activity is Linux distros, um, various things like that. But I
I
mean,
tend not
other
to source my Linux distros from the Pirate Bay, but whatever.
you could though. You
You
could.
could. And that's a Thundercats shirt, right, Brantley?
Yeah,
Eric mentions it.
a very very old Thundercat shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to get holes and everything. So.
It's seen better days. Yep.
So other great news out there is PCRT version 4 was released, and he's got a couple highlights on there. So if you're using that, it does integrate with D7.2 still, or D7.2 integrates with that still. So you can use both of those, our product and theirs, together. And some of the big points he pointed out is he's updated the main menu bar and uh, has some register closing procedures, fast user switching, bench sheet with frequently requested items, I'm assuming, uh, pass fail system checks, and Zapier integration. So cool things on that. Awesome. I am using an Atlantis 2 tank and a Sigeli 150. Nick has got an awesome mod and tank. I forget what exactly they were called.
So do I.
And then Michael's got one that was actually a hand-me-down because he lost his other one that's got Bluetooth and stuff. I forget what it was called. And Michael, did you get a new tank, or what tank are you using?
No, I'm still using the same one.
Cool. What was that one?
This is a SMOK X Cube 2 made by SMOK, I think. I don't.
What was the tank?
Oh, the tank. I'm sorry, the Scylla SCYLLA.
Yeah, that was the one that was on there when I gave it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a bad
I
one.
lost the tank with the Sigali. So.
Um, Otherwise, Eric, no, I haven't looked at that. Or wait, maybe we did. Yes, we did look at that one because Android was they said Android was the top, and it was interesting because Oracle was the next most vulnerable company, and things that Oracle does are what Android's based off of. So kind of mixed review on that one, but it is still interesting to see the things out there. And Phoenix points out that everything is vulnerable, and that's near to the truth with the amount of time and targeting everything could be. Yeah, anything connected to the web is possibly vulnerable. Um, so thoughts on Untangled versus pfSense? Two different scenarios is what I look at that as. Untangle is great. It does awesome reports, probably the best internet gateway reports that I've seen out there. It integrates with Active Directory and all of that stuff if you pay their subscription fees, which is extremely worth it if you're on a domain and things of that nature. They have their free version has lots of good integrations. It's easy to set up, easy to work with, easy to monitor and adjust. So Untangle is great. Being that the pfSense does offer a ton more features and options and customizations and abilities, but at the same time, it is a lot more difficult to set up, maintain. Your reports are nowhere near what Untangle provides you. And almost, in fact, I could possibly lean towards suggesting them both, having Untangle in bridge mode for the reporting usage, and then having pfSense on the actual gateway side is not a bad setup at all. So it really depends on who you're setting it up for and what you need out of it. I think they're both great applications. And mentioning pfSense, we can also mention OPNSense, which is a fork of pfSense, and Michael actually uses that one and really loves it. I did use it for a little while, and I switched over to pfSense because it gave me a few more options and abilities than OPNSense does currently. But they're still working on both of them, so both of them could get better. Yep, and Eric agrees basically with me that Untangle is great without a huge amount of technical knowledge needed. The reports are extremely wonderful and informative, and tech support is quite supportive. They are very helpful, especially if you're paying the subscription features and premium products, which again, if you're setting it up for a business, it is worth it. It is monthly or yearly style, and it may seem expensive, but what you get out of it is worth it. It is extremely nice to be able to have your reports broken down by domain user. So if someone logs in on a computer in a different place, you're not worrying about IP versus computer name versus user using it. It's great. I really like it. Yeah, and pfSense isn't harder to break into security-wise, but it's harder to break yourself into getting it set up and working with it and using it and going forward with it. So all three of them are great internet gateways, and I mean, either way, it doesn't matter which one you choose. If you're adding an internet gateway, you're already a step above, I would say, at least 80% of the people out there. So comparative to the other big sources that you might see there, like SonicWall and FortiGate and things like that, I feel like all three of those blow them out of the water, especially on the pricing and maintenance contracts that they do. As a UTM, what's the UTM? Does anyone know what that means? Michael, you're muted.
Yeah, as a
Let us know what UTM means, but as far as the differences between pfSense and OPNSense, they're
Unified Threat Management.
he says urgent traffic monitor parameters.
Oh, that's what I said.
Oh, you said
Unified Threat Management is probably what it is.
That's his. I was like, that's a weird one, Johnny. But I was going to say, well, since you said that, what does that mean? Because that did not help any. But as far as Unified Threat Management, pfSense and OPNSense are about on par.
Yeah, they don't. They both include.
They're both based on the same systems and setups. I mean, OPNSense is a fork of pfSense, and what they provide over pfSense is style and simplicity. So you do lose a few options on the threat management side because you don't have the extra abilities or customizations and things there. But
I mean,
OPNSense makes it a lot. I'll say this: OPNSense is closer to Untangle in the setup and management style of it versus
theoretically, though, you could, if you manually were able to, configure the things that pfSense and OPNSense are based on, you could match virtually anything.
Well, I mean, same thing with Untangle. If you can log in and put in, I mean, all of these, you can create your own Linux distro and install everything you want specifically, but the key thing that these provide is the interface and ability to manage them without having to do that.
Now, is there a mechanism for uh, um, there's not. I mean, I was just thinking about that recent Norton story about making, or Symantec story about making a router with scanning, antivirus or malware or threat scanning or
Norton,
otherwise.
Norton just did that, yeah.
I was just wondering if you wanted to achieve something like that with OPNsense or PFSense, if
My
how you do about doing that. But
my issue with that is there should never be a unified threat management. Honestly, threat management falls under security management, and anything, if we've not said already on the show today, even is that um, threat management and security is a layered approach. You're never going to have a single source that blocks everything and stops everything and prevents everything. It's impossible. There's absolutely no way to go about that. So you can add this as an additional layer, but I would never rely on anything for a unified threat management system. It's just no way and no reason to. There's so many people out there offering the various different layers that you can get everything that you need through various packages and sources and managements. I would never rely on something unified to try to prevent everything. It's not going to work out for the best. I mean, at the worst, you're never going to find something that's unified threat management that provides user education, which is the most important security layer that you can focus on. If you have that, you actually can mitigate majority of your other needs by just having appropriate user education. Backup systems is another layer, and firewalls at the internet gateway and at your system level, and various other protections on your system level. I mentioned today on that GHacks page, someone was talking about system malware targeting firmware, and I was like, well, that's not provided in CryptoPrevent as a protection. There's another program out there, MBRFilter, which will help mitigate that on the master boot record side. And actually, I was going to ask you guys, Michael, mainly since you've been researching ransomware a lot for me, have you seen ransomware or viruses, malware targeting firmware? I mentioned in the comment that I didn't see that very often, and if anything, it was actually because it was preloaded at the
yeah,
OEM
well,
point.
yeah. So there are actually Lenovo was this was a long time ago now, but Lenovo was charged with doing that on certain models of their machines, on their consumer machines, of sticking in hooks into their firmware that could potentially be used by um,
I've seen other ones like
software on the PC to, potentially.
Android on cheaper devices. A lot of the times comes loaded with them in their firmware. Other
Yeah, there's
things
tons of
too.
cheap Android devices that have those
I'm saying,
problems.
have you seen a lot that have been ransomware, malware, virus?
Not specifically, not specifically ransomware, unless you classify like those, boot sector guys that, load
Yeah,
up your hard
and
drive.
that's why I pointed out the MBR filter, because I was like, I've seen them target the master boot record on drives a lot, but I haven't seen them targeting the firmware. I'm sure
The
there is
problem is it's hard enough for them to do what they do, and then go on that next level to then understanding the hardware to be able to effectively write something like that. You have to understand that most ransomware authors are pulling off, ransomware builders from the dark web and are using that for the creation of the ransomware. That being said, they're probably not the most skilled individuals. I mean, that could be wrong. I'm sure you do have a very intelligent one out there, but I do believe it takes a certain level of training to develop firmware type of malware or ransomware, and it's a whole different ball game on the how you would have to program, and the high level languages that are typically used in
um
in most modern ransomware probably aren't capable of doing some of the tasks that are necessary for that.
Yeah. Michael, the chat has disappeared on the
Oh,
stream.
has it? My apologies.
I just noticed
Go.
it. While he fixes
Hope it
that,
hasn't been gone
your
long.
CMD mentioned that he uses pfSense with Squid, which has HAVP integrated as antivirus. It actually has Clam antivirus integrated, which is possible high false positives. That's what the base version of Untangle uses as well. The paid version of Untangle, I believe, uses Kaspersky. I haven't looked at it in a while, so I could be wrong about that. But OPNsense does have the ability to integrate HAVP antivirus style, but you have to have your own antivirus. They don't integrate Clam right off the bat. pfSense does have the ability to use Squid and integrate Clam AV directly in its interface. When I was looking into OPNsense, they do have that aversion, but they don't offer Clam as the integrated package there. You'd have to have your own antivirus that supported HAVP. I'm pretty sure that's what HAVP means. It was a little bit complex and complicated. I honestly don't even set up Clam AV on my Squid proxy on my pfSense. So, and Eric points out that it is correct. The paid version of Untangle uses Kaspersky. Yeah, HTTP antivirus proxy. Yeah, so it's not. It has that ability. So if you have an antivirus that does do that, you can connect it to it and set it up for that. pfSense has the extra step that you can integrate Clam right off the bat there. So if you don't have that, you can set it up there. But otherwise, the OPNsense has the ability, but you have to have your own ready and waiting there. So yeah, that's the big difference there. And Untangle, like I said, does the Clam AV for the free version and Kaspersky for the paid version. So again, paid version is fairly worth it on Untangle if you want the easy to use, manage, and set up internet gateway. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, there we go. Sorry, I'm not very good on the acronyms today.
I know it's unrelated to that conversation you were just having, but that was a fascinating article I just posted regarding some cases going up that are regarding the First Amendment that are going to the Supreme Court, and I don't necessarily, because everyone has certain opinions on these things. I don't want to throw anything out there, but this does cover the cases, and it's kind of just interesting to see how there's certain contradictions within our system as it stands currently. Like when they outlined exactly what patents were allowed, for offensive names and things like that, and what weren't allowed. And it seems, if you look at the list, I don't want to again repeat those things, but if you were to look at those lists of the ones that have been allowed and that aren't allowed, they really don't seem, they seem completely arbitrary as far as what they're picking and what they're not picking. And I'm not saying that I probably don't agree with any of them. Um, uh, well, maybe with a couple of exceptions, but um, uh, I certainly wouldn't want to restrict unnecessarily speech, but I don't like it when people deliberately try to um, incite people for no other reason, just because there should be better things to do in life than to do that. But um, it's just weird that there doesn't seem to be a set grounds, and there's even laws in certain states that up till even just very very recently, like Utah is a good example, that they're throwing out certain laws that are essentially in violation of the First Amendment, that are still on the law books.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's your PCMD. I would probably lean more towards the MSP-RMM stuff and the antivirus they provide, and seeing if it can be integrated with OPNsense. You should be able to integrate the same way with pfSense and their integrations, but as far as the built-in one, the Clam AV is definitely not the the top of the line antivirus I would focus on. I mean, it's great having that, but on Untangle, is my biggest experience with it, and on that, I ended up having to whitelist so many more things than I ended up getting caught. So that's why on my pfSense Squid proxy, I didn't even set it up, just because it's more of a hassle than it is help.
It's a management nightmare sometimes to deal with that, and I guess once you finally get it to the point where you need it, it's okay. But I sort of chiming in there to agree with Brantley that it is a challenge. But I guess if you put in what you get what you get, you get what you put in, I guess. You know what I mean? In other words, if you want that
Kinda.
additional, you do have to pay for it in a little bit of time. Now, if they can do a
Your
happier
video
median,
grows.
if they can do a happier median, of course, and allow those things to be configured more easily or automatically, but again, any sort of system to make it automatic is probably going to lessen its security, right? So,
Yes.
catch 22, but
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it did catch one or two things when I was setting it up, Phoenix, but it definitely is not what I would recommend as your best line of defense. Honestly, I still think that antivirus should be at the computer level. It does help on the network level at points, but it's I mean, I don't know. It's hard to manage because each of your clients on the network are going to be doing different things, working with different things, so they're going to need different setups. I feel, but it can help to block things at the very beginning. So, um, cool, great discussions today, everyone. Thanks everyone for participating here. Completely random and off topic. I thought this was a cool list. Best drones to get into. I'm a big drone fan, and I really liked seeing that DJI basically topped the list on this. So I have the Phantom 3 Advanced and absolutely love that drone. Wonderful drone. But they got some other ones there for if you're looking for cheaper budget styles and things of that nature. I did not purchase the Phantom, and I probably would not have a Phantom unless it was for Johnny basically winning it at Spice World 2 years ago. So, yeah, I probably would not have invested in it myself, but having it, I would say it definitely would be worth the investment. And if I lost it, I probably would reinvest in something of that nature because they are awesome, awesome drones. Really, really great. So otherwise on different things here, we'd actually mentioned this before. There's Bleeping Computers has an article this morning about, or yesterday morning possibly, about a ransomware that is stealing user private data. We had actually said that there's not a lot of ransomware out there going for user data, but it looks like now they're starting to target it, and that's one of the things that we believed would probably happen in the future, is that instead of just encrypting your files, they're probably going to start searching and picking out keywords and taking those files and then encrypting them. So it's going to be a much, much more dangerous landscape out there. So just keep an eye on those kind of things. Awesome. Your PCMD has a few drones. They're called technicians, but they're drones nonetheless. Awesome. Yeah, I actually.
is he making a joke about his drones, his technicians being drones?
Oh, there you go. Now I
Okay.
got it.
Just yeah,
Good thing you pointed
Bradley.
out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe wanna.
I have a custom built one too. I really like that one too.
Bradley loves his drones. Don't get him started. He'll forget
Yes.
everything. He'll lose his mind discussing drones.
I'll talk about them for a while. They're fun. That is good. There you go. Technicians. I can't even read today, so let alone acronyms.
Hey, my eyes get starry too sometimes. Just depends on what you're talking about, you know.
Um, If you want something scary for today, here's a tarantula eating a snake. Did not know that was possible.
A tarantula eating a snake. Wow, how big was this tarantula?
It looked like a regular sized tarantula. I don't know if you've seen Arachnophobia, but that's why I'm not a big fan of tarantulas.
Yeah.
Although it's completely, that's not how tarantulas act at all, and that movie would never play out like that. Tarantulas are actually quite docile for humans, but they are scary looking, and if they're used in a horror film, that makes it that much scarier. So, I was going to ask the parents out there what they thought about this one. Negotiating allowance contracts with your kids to teach them about money. So, like, kind of getting them into the wheeling and dealing side of it. Even almost to the point of like providing your kid with a 401k style thing, or negotiating cost of living adjustments. You people with kids out there, how do you
I don't take it to that level, but
think there's an age cutoff here. You can't have some of those conversations with
I do give the kids an allowance based on chores they do around the house, and they do try to negotiate it.
I'm in a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's not a.
I don't.
Not a bad idea, though. I mean, you can. Michael, what you're saying is that you think that there's like limit when you should start introducing.
Well, it's not even. It's. I mean, these discussions need to happen. These discussions need to happen, Brentley, but I don't believe that we should be promoting it. I mean, I'm not even so sure that I completely agree with our capitalistic system. And I know I probably, will get flack for that.
Great, Michael.
I mean, it's the system we live in, and they need to, our children
need to learn it. They do need to learn it.
And that's one of the problems with today's society is parents aren't teaching their kids how to deal with life.
Well, and that may be
the
case.
Systems, that's not included in the curriculum. So
it's not the school's jobs, or I don't think it should be. It should be the parents' jobs.
I mean, I think the schools should be.
I mean, to some degree,
life. So I mean, I agree that the parents should have their portion in it. But
take it from this perspective.
Wait, Nick, were you going to say something?
Take it from the perspective of someone without a child over there.
No, but take it from the perspective of your kids being able to negotiate with you. You're the parent. You put your foot down. You tell them what it is.
Don't have a kid. Yeah, we pay out on grades. We don't pay on chores. You got to do chores no matter what. You don't get a reward for that. That's just life.
There you go.
That's your job.
An agreement with that.
Your school. That's your job.
You shouldn't get to negotiate with your parents. What they say should be the law for the child. I mean, I'm assuming the parents doing the right thing and not violating other law, but I don't think I don't think you should encourage them to like Proctor was saying.
You can't tell us that you never negotiated with your parents, ever.
No, I didn't, because it was impossible. My dad would frickin' beat me if I attempted to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have those luxuries nowadays as parents. You can't beat your kids anymore. They turn out like you, is what the studies have found. So,
Future Sec Eric says his grandfather was worse. Yeah, he used to tell Sri that her allowance was the roof over her head.
That was my allowance.
Yeah, and that is a good allowance. I liked there was a meme that came out on Christmas that the kids wanted extra Christmas presents under the tree, so the parents went around and put bows on light switches and wrapped up the food that's in the refrigerator, and it's like, look, every day you get a present. Be happy about it. So
I think those are far more valuable lessons than teaching them negotiation and trading. I mean, those things should happen at some point in time in a right context, but not in the sense of chores and compensation for something that they should be contributing to the family unit that they are a part of. Okay? And they might not see the value in that, but that's the way life works. And there shouldn't be any payment or bribing about it.
My dad definitely beat me enough. I learned.
And I was raised getting whoopings as well, and I think it's a extremely good parental technique.
Okay, well now we're going overboard. You can't. Let's not go. Let's not promote the wholesale beating of children. Okay?
But like in my family, I didn't get an allowance, but I did get beat, like quote unquote beat. And then like if you look at me, and then I have a twin sister who did get an allowance and never got beat. So like if
Yeah,
you
look how she
compare
turned
the
out.
two,
Look how she turned out.
exactly, that's what
Johnny's
I'm saying.
responsible and has good morals and values, and her sister has very little of
I
those.
think I don't think they can go off what you say though, because they're gonna be like, "Oh no, Brantley's just being biased."
Yeah, that's true.
Rover
But,
says at 10 years old he had a paid job doing yards.
yeah, I mean I think there's it's definitely a balance of things. I mean, when we're saying beat your children, we're not saying you come home and just beat your children for no reason. But I mean, if a kid acts up or something of that
Right,
nature,
Johnny?
I
Get over
think that
here.
speaking,
Oh, we've got Shrew rolling.
I think that it's is a worthy form of punishment, and sometimes the only way they have to understand. But past that, I think that the promotional ways of encouraging them with allowances and chores and various things like that, I kind of agree with Nick on the chores side, but at the same time, like you have benefits coming from it and they like to see that, maybe pay them in candy with chores or something and have allowance for other purposes like grades and such is a great idea. um, I mean, there's so many ways that go into it, but the biggest thing there I was interested about that article was like teaching them the more serious financial things like 401ks and retirement packages and various things like that, and savings and saving accounts and various
Your,
things of that
your
nature.
PCMD had an interesting comment that he put in there, and it's kind of.
Well, I was actually typing it out, but I called the cops on my father one time, and they came out and talked to me, and they told me I must have been like 14, and they were like, "You are wasting our time. We have tons of other stuff to be doing right now, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the father
But
punishing
see,
their child."
hopefully no kids are watching right now, but I just want to point out you don't call the cops, you call social services because those
Yeah,
people are far worse on you
I
than any
definitely.
cop would ever be. A
The
cop comes
cops
out there
are
and is
not
like,
there
"Oh,
to
he is helping you
be
not
parents.
end up in my custody later on. He's helping me with my job, so or they're helping me with my job, not him
Yeah,
specifically."
Well,
they're
social
calling the wrong
services.
Um,
people. Is what, yeah, exactly
yeah.
Social
right.
services was called, but they told my dad that they were going to take me, and my dad was like, "Take her," and they never did.
They do have a lot more stuff to go through, but it's not that's not the biggest point there. My thing for bringing it up was the trying to teach people more about the financial environment that we live in, and like Proctor said, even if you don't agree with it, like Michael was, that this is the world that we live in, and that's what you need to be teaching your children is how to grow up in the world they live in. So, all right, well, that
I'm in the same boat
successfully.
with your PC doctor. I just wanted to address his last comment there. I'm in the same boat with you. That's pretty much how it started with me. I'm not like Rover who started working at 10 years old. That's pretty impressive. But I didn't receive any sort of monetary compensation from my parents. Now, like let's say when I received gift money during Christmas or a birthday or something like that, they might assist me with depositing that into a savings account or something of that nature. But it was never a compensation otherwise. And I know everyone disagrees, but I generally think that that's probably a good practice. And not to say, sure, discuss all that other stuff, but I think it should be a different conversation than the one about an allowance. That conversation should be taken in a very specific context towards, when you're buying a car or when you're, another real world example or types of examples. Um, and it's also about a time period. I don't know how old everyone here, but 3.35 an hour. Um, it depends on where you are, what the minimum wage is, and what time in the
Well,
world
I'm
you
not
know.
paying my kid minimum wage, I can tell you that much.
No,
Like
I'm not either. But
if I
335 an
am, I'm
hour
incorporating all of the other stuff that I pay my kid. So
does date him a little bit, but I will say that you know, when I was doing, I was quite fortunate when I was young to start working with a relative, you know, a technical job early on. But the point is, you should be going out. If a kid wants money, they should be encouraged to engage in work to get that money. And I know that's what the idea of allowance is, sort of, but it's a whole different situation at home than it is at quote unquote work. And they, you know, should be encouraged, I think, to do yard work or something else. I mean, it just got icy around here, and send your kids out to go clean up some of the crap that happened, or remove trees, fallen trees and stuff from people's yards, and offer to do that for compensation. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas that can still be done. And just because we're a more technical world and we're in 2017 or whatever, doesn't mean that those things. I mean, maybe not newspaper delivery, but you know, you could still do a lot of those things. Of course, child labor laws, you know, you got to abide by those. But
okay. Let's move on from that to wrapping up here. We got our hour for today in, so one last link to leave us on not so crazy a topic here. Various ways you can connect to your Raspberry Pi. I thought that was a pretty interesting article. And for a fun article, here is a freaking awesome RC car. They like set it up to do like Hollywood style action and stuff. It's pretty sweet. So check that out. And otherwise, we will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Again, we are mainly here to provide support for our products and services, but we definitely enjoy and appreciate all the conversation and interacting with our community here. You guys are awesome, and it is great having you here and participating. If you'd like to join us tomorrow at 2 p.m., we'll be back here doing the same thing, and I think that should wrap her up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and Michael, you can take us on out.
will do. Bye.